Widnes Vikings is an English professional rugby league club based in Widnes, Cheshire, which currently plays in the Super League, the top tier of European rugby league. Prior to the 1997 season, the club was known simply as Widnes and had a long history of success in the sport. The club plays its home matches at the Select Security Stadium.Widnes was one of the original 22 rugby clubs that formed the Northern Rugby Football Union in 1895, making them one of the world's first rugby league teams. The club enjoyed a period of success in the 1970s, 80s and early 90s, and were frequently described as Cup Kings, reaching the Challenge Cup final 7 times in 10 years between 1975 and 1984. In 1989, after winning the third Rugby League Championship, Widnes became the first official World Club champions by beating the Australian champions Canberra Raiders 30-18 at Old Trafford. The traditional nickname is the Chemics, after the main industry in Widnes, but the club also use the more modern nickname, the Vikings. They have a strong local rivalry with Warrington Wolves, and matches between the two clubs are often prolific encounters. History. Early years. The Farnworth and Appleton Cricket Club was formed in 1871, and 4 years later the members decided to embrace the burgeoning football code. At the 4th annual evening party in the Drill Hall, Widnes, in November 1875, club chairman Henry Lee gave a short account of the club since it commenced about 4 years ago, and indicated that they had now started a football club in connection with it, and hoped all would join. The first known game for the new Farnworth and Appleton FC was in Widnes in January 1876, played under rugby rules against Norwich Victoria. A few weeks later a return match was played at Drill Field, Norwich, under soccer rules. Vics won both games. These are the only 2 known fixtures in the truncated first season. By May 1876 the club had changed its name to Widnes FC, and the cricket side of the organisation had disbanded, presumably to concentrate on football activities. By the late 1870s the club was being referred to as the Chemicals, subsequently shortened to the Chemics. The first ground was on Albert Road behind what is now the Premier Wetherspoons pub, and a short spell followed in the Sims Cross area. From around 1878 to 84 the club were based at the junction of Millfield, Peelhouse Lane, apart from season 1880-81 when they played on the Widnes Cricket Club ground at Lowyhouse Lane. From 1884 to 95 they rented a field at Lowyhouse Lane before moving to the third separate site on that road in October 1895. The first ever game at what later became Norton Park was against Liversedge on Saturday the 12th of October 1895. In 1895, Widnes were founder members of the Northern Union, which broke away from the Rugby Football Union. The first game was an away fixture against Runcorn, which they lost 15-4. During the early years, the club often had to sell players to balance the books. The strength of junior rugby league in the area meant the club had a steady stream of new players to offset any losses. In 1902, the Lancashire and Yorkshire leagues were combined to form a second division. Widnes was added to the first division. In 1914, Arthur "Chick" Johnson was capped for the Lions in the famous Rorke Strip Test, a match in which they overcame all the odds and injuries to beat Australia with a depleted side of 10 against 13. He scored an extraordinary try to win the game, dribbling the ball from inside his own half. Widnes closed for the 1915-16 season but recommenced playing in 1916 following the introduction of conscription, which meant that it would not be accused of keeping men from volunteering for the First World War. 13 Widnes players were killed during the conflict. The club's first ever success came when they won the Lancashire League Trophy in the 1919-20 season. However, the 1920s saw the club almost go to the wall. Local rivals Warrington donated their share of the traditional Easter and Christmas derby matches to keep Widnes afloat in 1927-28. In 1930, Widnes with 12 local-born players defied the odds to beat St Helens 10-3 to bring home the Challenge Cup. The King's warehousing scheme threatened the loss of Widnes ground. After several years of fundraising during the Great Depression of the 1930s, £3,250 was raised to save the ground. This came with a stipulation that the ground could be sold only to the local council at the original price. The newly named Norton Park was opened in 1932. A major boost for the club was Widnes' first ever trip to the Challenge Cup final, staged at Wembley. Their opponents were St Helens. Saints scored after 6 minutes to take a 3-0 lead, but Widnes hit back with a penalty try, a further try and a penalty to take a 10-3 half-time lead. A scoreless second half meant Widnes had won the cup. Widnes became the first club to make 2 trips to Wembley, with a loss to Hunslet in the 1934 cup final. In 1935-36, the team came close to being Rugby League champions. Having finished third in the table, Widnes beat Liverpool 10-9 but lost to Hull in the championship final. A third trip to Wembley came in 1937, with an 18-5 win over Keighley. The final was dubbed McHugh's match, as the half-back played an important part in the win. Widnes dropped out of the wartime Lancashire League in 1940-41 and did not return to league competition until 1945-46. Post-war, Tommy McHugh led the club to its first ever Lancashire Cup win, with a 7-3 victory against Wigan in 1945. Back at Wembley in 1950, the team was beaten 19-0 by Warrington. During this period, the club reverted to selling its players to richer teams. Local man Vince Carolius joined Widnes from St Helens in 1962 and was appointed club captain. In his first season, Widnes finished third in the championship, which equaled the club's best league placing. In 1962, the league was split into east and west of the Pennines. Widnes and Workington Town met at Central Park, Wigan, in the first final of the Western Division Championship on Saturday 10 November 1962. With 2 minutes remaining, Loudon dropped a goal to earn Workington a 9-9 draw. Later in the month, Workington Town won the replay 10-0. The following season saw him lead his team to Wembley, where Widnes were Rugby League Challenge Cup winners after they defeated Hull Kingston Rovers 13-5. No team had ever played more games in reaching Wembley than Widnes in 1964. In the first round, 2 replays were necessary before beating Leigh. Liverpool City were beaten in the second round, then Widnes played Swinton in front of 19,000 at Norton Park. A 5-5 draw meant another replay, which was a scoreless draw at Station Road. A second replay at Wigan was watched by 21,369, with Widnes winning 15-3. The semi-final against Castleford was drawn 7-7. A crowd of 28,732 spectators watched the replay, which Widnes won. A Wembley crowd of 84,488 saw Widnes win the Challenge Cup for the third time with a 13-5 victory over Hull Kingston Rovers. This was the Chemic's first trophy success in 18 years. The Cup Kings, the 1970s, saw the first really outstanding Widnes team. A host of young local players developed into the Cup Kings, a golden age for the club. The first cup final was a loss in the 1971-72 Lancashire Cup. 6 years after he retired from playing, Vince Carolier's returned to Widnes as coach, appointed in January 1972. The following 2 seasons, Widnes reached the finals of the BBC Two Floodlit Trophy. The first success came in the 1975 Lancashire Cup, which Widnes won by beating Salford that season. They also won the 1975 Challenge Cup final 14-7 versus Warrington at Wembley. This was the first time in the history that Widnes had won 2 trophies in the same season. At his zenith, Carolier stepped down once from his role as coach. He was replaced in May 1975 by Frank Myler. Widnes visited Wembley in the following 2 seasons, losing to St Helens and then Leeds. However, this was made up for by victories in the Lancashire Cup and John-Player Trophy. The season after this saw the first league championship. The team went through the season unbeaten at home in the league. There were also trips to the John-Player and Premiership finals. Keith Elwell began his run of 242 consecutive appearances at Wembley in the 1976-77 Challenge Cup final, including 2 as a substitute. He finished his run at Hull on the 26th of September 1982. This record for consecutive appearances for one club stands to this day. Doug Lawton took over the job of team coach when Frank Myler retired from the position in 1978. The 1978-79 season saw no less than 4 cups come to Widnes: the BBC Two Floodlit Trophy, Lancashire Cup, Premiership, and a win at Wembley over Wakefield Trinity in front of a crowd of 93,218. Widnes also defeated the Ashes-winning 1978 Kangaroo Tourists. The 1979-80 season saw Widnes beat Bradford Northern in the Premiership final, but come second to them in the league and John-Player Trophy. The Lancashire Cup was won for the 5th time in the 1970s. The 1980s started with a Wembley win over Hull Kingston Rovers in 1980-81. The season after this, Widnes again returned to Wembley to face Hull. Widnes led 14-6 with less than 20 minutes to go, but the game finished 14-14 and Hull won the replay 18-9 at Elland Road, Leeds. Widnes kept the record of winning a cup every season by defeating Hull 23-8 in the Premiership final. The next season saw Hull again beaten by Widnes in the Premiership final. Vince Carolier's returned to the club in March 1983 as co-coach with Harry Dawson. Dawson quit as coach in March 1984 with Carolier's continuing as team manager. Carolier's led a strong Widnes side to the finals of the Lancashire Cup and John-Player Trophy and another Wembley victory appearance 19-6 against Wigan. Doug Lawton returned to the club in January 1986 and began a series of signings of players from other league clubs and from rugby union. One such player was Martin Offier, who in 1987-88 scored a club record 42 tries. The team went on to win the championship that season, clinching it with a 50-point win away over Hunslet. Widnes then beat St Helens in the Premiership final at Old Trafford, Manchester, a game in which Alan Tate made his acute BUT. The 1988-89 season saw the club sign rugby union star Jonathan Davies from Llanelli for £225,000. Wigan were beaten in the Charity Shield but had the revenge in the Regal Trophy final. The championship came down to the last game of the season. A capacity-crowded Norton Park saw Widnes beat Wigan 32-18 to win the title for the second year running. The Premiership was won again, with over 40,000 at Old Trafford to see Widnes beat Hull 18-10. The 1989-90 season saw Widnes play at Anfield, Liverpool beating Wigan 27-22. A trip to France to play Le Pontet saw Widnes chosen as the Northern Hemisphere representatives to meet Australia's grand final winners. Canberra took a 12-0 lead but were then swept aside as Widnes stormed home 30-18 to become the first official World Club champions. However, financial problems riddled the club in the early 1990s. To balance the books, over 25 first-team players were sold to other teams. This resulted in the club sinking to 12th in the Division 1 table, avoiding relegation. Myler became coach of Widnes in May 1994. In August 1995, the club decided to bring back Doug Lawton for a third stint as team manager, which resulted in Myler's sacking as coach. Summer era. In 1996, the first tier of British Rugby League clubs played the inaugural Super League season and changed from a winter to a summer season, when the RFL announced that a new 12-team Super League was to be formed. A chaotic period ensued in which the club was out, then in, then out, then in, merged with local rivals Warrington, and then finally out again as they finished below the cut-off point of 10th in the existing top flight. The club adopted the name Widnes Vikings on the 27th of November 1996. The club had originally intended to adopt the moniker Warriors but were asked to reconsider by the RFL, as Whitehaven were planning to adopt this name also. Further player and coaching departures ensued and the club struggled in the new First Division. The club's first ever finish in the relegation zone followed. They spent the next 5 years in the Northern Ford Premiership. Graham West took over as coach after Doug Lawton's third stint. His reign lasted from May 1997 until August 1998. During this time, the playing arena was rebuilt and the old stands, terraces and facilities were demolished to be replaced with a state-of-the-art all-seater stadium, and was also renamed from Norton Park to the Alton Community Stadium. West was later replaced as coach by Colin Whitfield. In 1999, Widnes narrowly missed out on a place in the Northern Ford Premiership Grand Final. The 2000 season was one of transition, with head coach Colin Whitfield being sacked and replaced by David Hume. A record attendance for the newly rebuilt stadium was set at 6,644 for a Northern Ford Premiership game against Leon Boxing Day 2000. Widnes finished off a poor season in 8th place in the NFP. Under new coach Neil Kelly, Widnes won promotion to Super League in 2001 after beating Oldham 24-12 in the Northern Ford Premiership Grand Final. The DE Acute BUT season in Super League was in 2002, and the Vikings surprised everyone by narrowly missing out on a playoff place and finishing 7th. The following season saw them consolidate with a 9th place finish, and in 2004 they avoided relegation on the final day of the season, with Castleford's defeat to Wakefield Trinity saving Widnes' fate. Stuart Spruce was caretaker manager. Frank Ndekit arrived at Widnes as coach in 2005, but could not improve on the previous seasons, with two teams being relegated in 2005 due to the inclusion of Catalan's Dragons in Super League from 2006 onwards. Widnes were relegated back down to the second tier of the English game. Widnes parted company with coach Frank Ndekit, and new coach Steve McCormack rebuilt the squad, which notably included Australian fullback David Peachey, who kept his word to join the club despite its relegation. Stephen Vaughan completed a takeover of Widnes in 2006 and the club made it to the LHF National League Grand Final, but were beaten 29-16 by Hull KR at Warrington's Halliwell Jones Stadium. Stephen Vaughan quit as chairman of Widnes at the start of 2007 and stepped down from the club's board of directors, placing the club's season into a boom-or-bust scenario. Widnes won the 2007 Northern Rail Cup final with a 54-6 victory over Whitehaven at Bloomfield Road Stadium and went on to reach the National League Grand Final at the end of the season. They were beaten 42-10 by Castleford at Headingley, and in the days that followed, Widnes had no option but to place themselves into voluntary administration. New beginning. On the 2nd of November 2007, Widnes were purchased by Steve O'Connor, a local businessman who had just sold his haulage firm to the Stobart Group. Steve McCormack was reappointed as head coach, and the club were readmitted into National League One. A 9-point deduction for going into administration was successfully neutralized through winning the first 3 games, and Widnes qualified for the National League One playoffs by finishing in 6th place. A 32-16 defeat to third-placed Halifax, however, brought the nostalgic 2008 campaign to an end. Off the field, Widnes had applied for a Super League license for the 2009 season along with 18 other clubs. However, the club was not granted a license to play in Super League, with the recent financial history of the club coming under close scrutiny. In 2009, Widnes parted company with Steve McCormack, and for a period John Stankiewicz became caretaker manager. Paul Cullen was unveiled as McCormack's eventual successor and managed the club to victory in the season's Northern Rail Cup final, beating a strong Barrow Raiders side 34-18. In the following season, Widnes again reached the Northern Rail Cup final but were beaten 25-24 by Batley Bulldogs. The club also reached the 2010 Cooperative Championship playoffs but were knocked out in the opening round by Barrow Raiders, returned to Super League. In 2011, Widnes were granted a Super League license for the 2012-14 seasons, and Dennis Betts was confirmed as the man who would coach the club. A flourish of new signings were announced and the pioneering Vikings Stronghold initiative moved from strength to strength. Widnes also installed a 4th-generation artificial pitch during the off-season, making them the first team in modern-day rugby league to not play on a traditional grass pitch. Widnes' tenancy in the Cooperative Championship culminated in September 2011 with a 5th-place league finish, and a first-round playoff defeat of 36-20 by Sheffield Eagles at Bramall Lane. February 2012 saw Widnes' re-emergence into the top tier of rugby league, and they claimed the first 2 points against Wigan Warriors in a 37-36 win. The club managed to prove a number of critics wrong by gaining 12 points in total by the end of their first season back, but this was not enough to prevent the club from finishing at the bottom of the Super League table. The 2013 season saw a marked improvement on the field by Widnes, with the team earning a total of 22 league points and finishing 10th in the Super League table. The 2014 season proved to be the most successful season of the franchise period, with the club finishing 8th in the Super League table on 27 points and subsequently qualifying for the end-of-season playoffs for the first time in the history. A 22-19 away defeat to the Warrington Wolves brought the curtain down on a season that can only be seen as a success for the Vikings, with a Challenge Cup semi-final appearance against the Castleford being the key highlight. However, it was also during the 2014 season that the club received the sad news that legendary supporter Pat Price had died, and condolences for the First Lady of Rugby League were received from clubs and supporters throughout the sport. The RFL overhauled Super League for the 2015 season, scraping the franchise system, and re-adopted promotion and AMP relegation. Widnes finished in 9th position on 19 points, and then went on to consolidate the Super League status in the middle eight. Widnes surprised everyone in the 2016 season, putting a number of early exciting performances together, including defeating the previous season's champions Leeds Rhinos 56-12. This placed Widnes top of the Super League table, heading into the Easter fixtures. Norton Park. Widnes Rugby League Football Club had a number of grounds before settling at Lower House Lane in 1895. The death of the club's secretary, Tom Norton, in 1932, led to the ground on Lower House Lane being renamed Norton Park as a gesture of the team's appreciation. Norton Park became one of the best-known rugby league grounds in the country due to the success of the academics in the 1970s and 80s. In the 1990s, Halton Council, in partnership with the Widnes, agreed to build a new stadium on the existing site, which would provide a multi-purpose complex including a social club, conference facilities, recreational facilities and catering function facilities, and would be the new home venue for Widnes RLFC. The new stadium was officially opened on the 2nd of November 1997 following the completion of Phase 1 of a multi-million-pound redevelopment, and was renamed the Halton Community Stadium. On the 29th of January 1999, Halton Borough Council took over responsibility for the entire stadium, both financially and managerially. This was necessary as the joint venture company's arrangements were not performing as expected. The stadium reached completion with the opening of the East Stand in September 2005 and is an all-seater stadium which has a capacity of 13,500. It has also had the honor to have staged national finals and international fixtures. The stadium's name has changed a number of times due to sponsorship purposes, with the latest name being the Select Security Stadium. However, a number of fans still refer to the ground as either Norton Park or the Halton Stadium, due to the legacy that the names hold. In August 2011, the stadium turf was removed and replaced with a third-generation artificial pitch, in order to improve overall match performance and maximize the use of the club's facilities. Club coaches, captains and vice-captains. See also List of Widnes Vikings coaches. Coaching register since 1972. Captain register since 2005. 2016 squad. 2017 transfers. Ins Out Honours. World Club Challenge 1 1989. European Champions 1 1989. Rugby Football League Championship 3 1977 78 1987 88 1988 89. Challenge Cup 7 1929 30 1936 37 1963 64 1974 75 1978 79 1980 81 1983 84. League Cup 3 1975 76 1978 79 1991 92. Premiership 6197980 1981 82 1982 83 1987 88 1988 89 1989 90 BBC Two Floodlit Trophy 119787 Lancashire Cup 6194546 1974 75 1975 76 1976 77 1978 79 1979 80 Lancashire League 1 1919 Charity Shield 3 1988 89 1989 90 1990 91 Northern Rail Cup 2 2007 2009 Records Player records: most tries in a match, 7 by Phil Cantillon vs York Wasps, the 18th of February 2001. Fastest hat-trick in a match, 10 minutes by Danny Hume vs Halifax RLFC, the 21st of April 2011. Most goals in a match, 14 by Mark Hewitt vs Oldham Roughheads, the 25th of July 1999. Tim Harty vs Saddleworth Rangers, the 7th of March 2009. Most points in a match, 38 by Gavin Dodd vs Doncaster Lakers, the 10th of June 2007. Most tries in a season, 58 by Martin Offia, 1988-89. Most goals in a season, 161 by Mick Nannon, 2007. Most points in a season, 434 by Mick Nannon, 2007. Most career tries, 234 by Mal Aspey, 1964-80. Most career goals, 1083 by Ray Dutton, 1966-78. Most career points, 2,195 by Ray Dutton, 1966-78. Most career appearances, 587 plus 4 by Keith Elwell, 1970-86. 100 plus tries, 234 Mal Aspey, 1964-65-1979-80. 199 Eric Hughes, 1969-70-1983-84. 181 Martin Offia, 1987-88-1990-91. 161 David Hume, 1980-81-1996 and AMP 2000-2001. 151 Stuart Wright, 1976-77-1986-87. 144 Frank Myler, 1955-56-1967-68. 120 John Devereux, 1989-90-1997. 119 Andy Currier, 1983-84-1992-93 and AMP 1997. 114 Phil Cantillon, 1999-2003. 112 Dennis O'Neill, 1966-67-1978-79. 111 Johnny Gaydon, 1961-62-1971-72. 110 William Thompson, 1956-57-1964-65. 108 Derek Mick George, 1971-72-1981-82. 107 Darren Wright, 1985-86-1996. 106 Tommy McHugh, 1931-32-1948-49. 103 John Basnett 198182198687 102 William Reed 190910192627 101 Jimmy Hoey 192223193435 150 plus goals 1072 Ray Dutton 196566 197778 708 Mick Burke 197879 198687 434 Jonathan Davis 198889 199293 395 Jimmy Hoey 192223193435 389 Robert Randall 196061196465 383 Harry Dawson 195152 196263 295 McNannon 2006-2007 243 John Myler 197677198889 213 John Sale 195152 195758 209 Robin Whitfield 196162 196768 207 Arthur Pimblett 195758 196162 202 Mark Hewitt 1998 1999 201 Andy Carrier 1983-84 1992-93 and AMP 1997 195 Peter Topping 1927-28 1939-40 167 Colin Hutton 1945-46 1950-51 162 Harry Taylor 1908-09 1921-22 Team records biggest victory 88-0 versus Saddleworth Rangers home the 7th of March 2009. Worst defeat 76-6 versus Catalans Dragons away the 31st of March 2012. Highest attendance 24,205 versus St Helens the 16th of February 1961. Highest attendance versus a national touring team 14,666 versus Australia the 18th of November 1990 Kangaroo Tour.